Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. My name is Dr. Zora, and this is the ultimate beginner's guide to playing one of the most pivotal agents in Valorant, and that is the Duelists. For those who aren't familiar with who the Duelists are, which if you aren't, you are definitely living under a rock, Duelists are self-sufficient fraggers who their team expects through abilities and skills to get high frags and seek out engagements first. This class type is the most offensive choice and often ranks highly as an attacker. The current Duelists available at the time of this video are Jett, Reyna, Raze, Yoru, and Phoenix. Each of these agents play the same role, however they each have their own unique way of fulfilling that role. We're going to break down how to use Duelists the right way and how you can take advantage of each Duelist's abilities to absolutely dominate your opponents. So without further ado, let's get right on into the video. Going into our question of the day for y'all, since we're discussing about Duelists in particular, which Duelist is your favorite to play? My personal favorite is, to no one's surprise, Jett, and I'm sure there are plenty that are here with me. Duelists are incredibly fun, but we find many players are unable to fully capitalize on their ability kits. We're curious as to which Duelist is the most popular at this time, so make sure to drop those comments down below. And hey, we might even make a whole separate video based on your favorites. To start things off, let's break down the exact role of the Duelists. Like we mentioned earlier, Duelists are self-sufficient fraggers, meaning that they are capable of taking things into their own hands to grab kills. As a Duelist, you should be actively seeking out fights, especially on the attacker side. The Duelist's job on the attacker side is to get those initial engagements and create space for the rest of your team to go in. No other role is really capable of doing this to the extent of the Duelists. To give you an example, let's imagine we're hitting the A site through A short on the attacker side. A potential setup that the attackers may have is one player in U-Haul and one player at triple box. If these two players time their cards right, they'll have a good crossfire setup that will give them a good chance of defending the site if you were to just run in from A short. Now if we had a Duelist like Jett, we can really cause some mayhem that will break this setup. For example, Jett can quickly smoke off U-Haul to block off this setup, and she can then dash over to that area to hold U-Haul once the smoke fades. This gives Jett the upper advantage to kill off anyone who's playing in U-Haul. Now the rest of your team can just focus on the guy in triple and should be able to take him out and push him back. Just those simple moves can help make it so much easier for your team to hit a site if the Duelists are playing their roles properly and creating that space. On the defender side, you will be much more passive just due to the nature of playing this side, but you still want to be looking for those initial engagements when the attackers start to push you. In particular, when playing retakes, you should look to go in first just like you would on attack to work on separating the choke points and give not only you but the rest of your team more of a focus point to take the enemies down one by one. Speaking of taking enemies down, if you want to absolutely take your game to the next level and crush your enemies, then make sure to go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you everything you need to blast through the rankings in Valorant. The link will be provided in the description below. With that being said, how do we create this space with Duelists? We'll get into that in just a moment, but we need to go through one of the most fundamental principles that will drastically help not only your play, but your team's play as well. If you really want to be a good Duelist, you have to be ready to be the first person in during fights. We see this all the time where the player on Duelist is playing incredibly passive and far back. While this may be okay in a few scenarios, a lot of times this is significantly reducing the efficiency of the Duelist. For example, let's take that smoke dash play that we mentioned earlier. If you're not in front of your team when you execute that, the play becomes much more worse and late. Your team would have already pushed through the site and gotten caught up in the crossfire setup of the defenders before you arrive. Likewise, it's hard, or should I say impossible, to flash your team in with agents like Yoru, Phoenix, and Reyna if you're in the back lines. Maybe you could with Yoru, but the odds of you flashing your team is going to be drastically higher if you're behind versus if you're in front. You also won't really be able to utilize your own abilities either if you're behind. So as a rule of thumb, be in front of the team and get into the enemy faces on both the attacker and defender sides. Alright, now let's get into our almighty Duelist and how it can break open that space. Each Duelist has an ability that helps them push up and get into enemy faces, and we'll break those down as we go through each agent. Starting off, we have the one and only Jett. Jett is all about getting up close and personal, but also she can use her abilities to get out of sticky situations. This is what makes Jett such an aggressive agent, as she can go for risky plays and get out for free. Because of this, if you are playing Jett, you should absolutely go for these kinds of plays, as they can allow you to essentially get free kills. First, Jett has her smokes that can be quickly casted on the ground for quick surprise pushes. We recommend using these to block off choke points prior to a push or to stop a push. Her dash and updraft though are where she can really go aggressive. For her dash, you really want to save this for more of an evasive maneuver rather than to push. For example, you want to move more aggressively into areas to peek enemies, and then if you feel like you're losing the duel or you feel like someone else is about to come get you, then you want to use the dash to get away. Updraft is most useful for Jett to get into those unsuspecting angles. For example, boosting on top of containers on short is a great way to get that surprise position that will surely land you the first hit. Lastly, Jett's ultimate Blaze Storm is where the real fun begins. You get 5 daggers that are 100% accurate regardless if you're moving or not. Because of this, you absolutely want to take advantage of Jett's mobility to get into enemy faces. Stay moving the whole time while using it, and if you are close enough to an enemy, you can use a simple dash updraft combo to get above them and completely catch them off guard while you land the daggers. Each of Jett's abilities give her room to make moves and open up areas, so keep this in mind at all times when using her so you can fully fulfill that duelist role. Next up, we have Reyna. Now Reyna's ability kit is all about fighting and taking duels, so if you are playing her, you should absolutely be looking to get those kills first. Reyna has 2 flashes that should be used to blind enemies prior to pushing into them. For example, if we go back to A, you'll want to flash your way into A short and then get close to double boxes. From there, you want to throw another flash nice and high to get people throughout the site and then push. Now without any kills, that's the only ability Reyna has, which is why it's important to hunt for kills or get assists with your team. From there, she is then able to use Devour to heal up and go in for more fights, or to dismiss to get away from the fight. For beginners, we really recommend focusing on just healing and getting to fight after fight. Dismiss takes a lot more timing to fully take advantage of, so it's much easier to hit heal and constantly duel players with near full health. Reyna's ultimate Empress is essentially a buff version of her Devour. She will heal up after every fight she wins and will also have an increased firing rate. Reyna will go invisible with Dismiss as well, and since you heal automatically, you can focus on just hitting that one button to dismiss. So we do suggest using it if you find yourself against multiple players, so you can get away to safety before repositioning for another fight. Yoru has a similar style of aggressive play as Reyna, however with a bit of a twist. Yoru's slash should be used in the same way as Reyna's, while knowing that it does bounce, and you'll see it used as we go through the clips of these other abilities. In regard to his teleport and footsteps, we recommend using those more for playing mind games with the enemy. You can place your footsteps on the site that you want the enemy to think you're going for, and then trigger them once you're on the other site. The footsteps may trick the enemy team into rotating quickly, thus opening up the other site that you're actually going for. You can also do things the other way around, where you actually stay on the same site. Trigger the footsteps and then wait for some of them to show their presence, so enemies think that you're faking it. Once you think that it is a fake, that's when you actually go in and surprise them for easy kills. His teleport is used in a similar manner where you want to use those same mind games. Place your teleport close to the other site that you want to go to, and from there push on aggressively into the opposite site, making them think that you're going there. Once you sold the fake, teleport out and regroup with your team to go for the opposite site. This may seem like an exception to the rule of going in first, but it's actually not. You're ending up going aggressively on a site that you normally would, which fulfills that duelist role, but you end up late to the actual site with the rest of your team. However, remember the duelist role is to create space for your team, and by forcing rotations out, you're creating that space. Yoru's ultimate is also another great space maker, as you can scout out enemy locations and call them out to your team. While the enemy is distracted by the outline of your player model, your team can get them by surprise and take over the sites. While we're on agents with flashes, let's get into Phoenix. Phoenix's flashes is much more up close and personal, which is great for the duelists. However, since you do have to get close to an area you want to flash into, you want to make sure the coast is clear before you go for the flash. As always, you want to be the first one in when doing these flashes, or it really defeats the purpose. From there, Phoenix's abilities are all about pushing players back and again opening up that space for the team. His wall helps to block off a choke point and make it easier for the site take. For example, if you want to take control of U-Haul, you can wall the right side of A short so you can isolate that area for your team to take over. Similarly, to decrease the number of areas that your team needs to check, you want to throw Molotovs at popular choke points that enemies may be at. Lastly, Phoenix's ultimate is extremely scary for enemies to deal with, as there's no real benefit for fighting it. Therefore, most enemies will back up from the ultimate, which is perfect for letting you and your team take up that given territory and take up the site. Again, all these abilities get their maximum benefit if you're in the front lines and using them before your team actually gets onto the site. So as we've been emphasizing, make sure that you are again that first man in with Phoenix. Lastly, we have our favorite duelist with the nades, Raze. While Raze's abilities aren't as flashy as some of the other agents, they still pack a punch in terms of clearing areas and creating space like the other duelists. For example, Boombot is fantastic at clearing out an area and identifying if a player is nearby. You should plan to push slightly behind your Boombot so that if someone detects it, the enemy will be distracted by it and you'll be able to easily grab a frag. If that's not enough to clear out an area, then a grenade will do just as well at pushing players back from the choke point that you want to take. Same idea, once the grenade has been triggered, you want to take up that space that's given to you. Raze's satchels can be used to make some absolutely insane plays, however the techniques to do so are quite advanced. We recommend beginners focusing more on using the satchels to boost up into surprise angles to catch off enemies instead. It's not as fancy looking, but it does the trick of surprising the enemy and giving you better odds of taking them out. And of course, we have to end it with everyone's favorite ability, Showstopper. This ability works similarly to Phoenix's ultimate. Once it's triggered, enemies are surely going to run for their lives, which opens up all that area that you and your team can take. If anyone is foolish enough to stay or has no escape route, then you'll be able to grab a very easy kill onto them. We recommend jumping often when using the showstopper just to make it more difficult for an enemy to kill you before you can shoot that deadly ultimate back at them. You can see that all Raze's abilities are meant to take away map control, which gives more options for you and your team to win the round. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, make sure to comment down below which duelist is your favorite to play. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. I'm Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.